Yeah, Jay, whenever. I'm
Okay.
ready. Sorry.
Yep, nope, that's fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and click starting broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Nebraska Farm Bureau's issue update webinar this evening from our Governmental Relations Department here in Lincoln, Nebraska. My name is Jay Ferris. I am the Director of Grassroots Programs. Just a couple of housekeeping tips before we get started this evening. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone that is taking time out of their evening to be on this webinar to get updated information on what's going on in both capitals in Lincoln and in Washington, D.C. Also, just to give you an update or give you kind of how we're going to work this evening and how you can participate in this webinar. For those of you, we do have some people that are phoning in as well too, that they're not seeing anything on their screen. So if they have a question, we'll have an opportunity for them to ask questions as well. But for those of you that are participating in the webinar, there is a couple different ways. The first way you can ask a question is you can simply type a question. You should have a box that looks similar to what you see on your screen right now. There's a question box. Simply type your question and hit send. I will see your question that you have typed, and I will get the question asked to the presenters at that time. Also, you can raise your hand. There's a little hand place there, and you can raise that, and I will see that. I will unmute your microphone, and that is for those folks that do have a microphone and speakers hooked up to their computer. You do also can dial in to that toll-free number, but you will pay toll charges. I do see a couple of people that have done that, so I just want you to be aware. Nobody needs to do that. You can turn your speakers up on your computer, and you can listen to the presentation directly from your computer and not be getting into the charges on your telephone. So that is an option. I don't want to surprise anybody when they get their phone bill next month. With that being said, we're going to talk about two different areas this evening. One will be state issues. The other one is national issues. And first, we're going to we had a flip of the coin backstage earlier, and Jay Rempe, as Vice President of Governmental Relations, won. And so we're going to start with our state issues this evening and let Jay go. So, Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And before I get started, I especially would like to thank Jay Ferris for doing all the technical behind-the-scenes work on this and helping us get this going. And Jay, I may need your help a little bit here in terms of the show. Is that coming through okay? Or
Yep, you are coming through.
Does everyone see the screen that says legislative progress right now?
If everybody sees that screen, you can raise your hand, and we will.
I hope everybody.
We're seeing a lot of hands raised, so I think you're live.
Good. All right. I'm glad to know this technology works, everyone. So let me run through some of the state issues here and kind of give you an overview of where we're at. Today, the body just completed day 32 of a 60-day session. They are scheduled to adjourn sine die in the middle of April. They really haven't moved into the meat of their agenda yet in terms of some of the bigger issues that they need to address. Last week, senators had until Thursday to designate priority bills, and so those will be, each senator gets one priority bill that they designate. Those will be the bills that senators will focus on from here on out. Committees each can designate 2 priority bills, and then the speaker will designate 25 priority bills. And so those are the bills that they'll focus on. And thus far, in terms of the bigger issues that we're interested in and some of the bigger issues that the session, coming into the session, that people thought the legislature would focus on, they haven't gotten into any of those yet for the most part. And those are the taxes, water, prison reform, expansion of Medicaid. All those things are still out there. On some of those issues, bills have just been reported out of committee. On others, they have not. And so the bulk of the work needs to be done yet for the session. Excuse me, senators, this week is the last week of hearings, and so the committees will finish up their committee work with hearings anyway, and then start to consider some of the bills that they heard that they haven't already acted upon, and move those out. Probably not next week, but the week after, they'll go into all-day sessions on the floor then, and start working through and considering more time on the floor. Right now, they're just doing work on the floor in the mornings and then an afternoon hearing. So they'll start doing a little more work on the floor coming here on out, and that'll give them a little more time to do things. Just a couple other things I thought I'd mention. Clouding over this whole session this year is politics. Obviously, we got a lot of senators that are running for higher office, and so that seems to be playing in a lot of issues and kind of in the mix. And then we have term limits. We have 17 senators that are done after this session, and they sometimes kind of can get a little mind of their own on what they're worried about and what they want to try to accomplish this session, and that kind of takes a life of its own too. So all that stuff is mixed in together. And then the other thing I mentioned that's out there or show is the cash reserve fund at $725 million. The only reason I mention that is that's attracting a lot of attention in a lot of different ways. Obviously, the governor and others view it as a potential opportunity to provide tax relief. Others see dollars available for some other priorities for the state, water, prison reform, the Medicaid, those kind of things. Others want to save it for the future in case we have an economic downturn and we need it for state aid or those kind of programs. So I just throw that out there because that's kind of hanging out and hanging over all the session. Let me start a little bit by and what I wanted to try to run through is some of the issues, priority issues that Farm Bureau is concerned about and what we're working on, spending a lot of our time. Let me start with taxes. Obviously, property taxes are number one issue in terms of tax policy facing farmers and ranchers in this state. And when we're looking at what's occurred over the last few years in terms of the property taxes and the growth, the value growth that we've seen in the percentage share of property taxes that agriculture pays now, it's definitely getting out of whack, and so we're really concerned about that. Just to share with you some information that we shared with senators a couple weeks ago at the hearing on some of the ag land bills. In 2006, if you look at the percentage of property taxes that were paid on ag land, it accounted for about 18.6% of the total property taxes collected in the state. By 2013, it was about 26.25%, so almost an 8% increase in terms of the total property taxes paid statewide, which total property taxes paid statewide are about $3 billion. So that kind of a percentage shift amounts to quite a bit of dollars. And so those are the kind of arguments we're making with senators. We've had, on the plus side, we've had two bills that are in the Revenue Committee, LB 670 that was introduced by Senator Bo McCoy, which would phase in a reduction of ag land values from 75 to 65% over a 3-year period. He has designated that as a priority bill. And LB 145, which was introduced by Senator Lydia Brosh, that would do the same thing, reduce ag land values from 75 to 65%, but do it in 1 year. Both those bills have been prioritized. So that sent a strong message to the Revenue Committee that there's a lot of interest in this issue. Just to give you an idea, the last estimates that we had calculated for a reduction in property taxes paid by agriculture by reducing that ag land value from 75 to 65, it would range anywhere from $80 to $100 million. That's probably a bit on the conservative side just because of the value increase that we're expecting to see here this year, and probably also that's assuming a little bit that the local governments will raise their levies to make up some of the difference, and to the extent that local governments can hold the line on levies, the greater the property tax reduction that you'll see for agriculture. Also on the screen there, you'll see that there are 3 bills introduced that would increase the property tax credit program. And those 3 bills were heard in Appropriations Committee last week. They range anywhere from Senator Al Davis had a bill that increased the credit program to by $25 million. Currently, the program's funded at $115 million. And then there was another bill, I think it was Senator Pete Peirce, to double the amount in it, to increase it to $230 million. And Senator Bo McCoy had another bill to increase it by $85 million. That property tax credit program, it goes out to every property taxpayer across the state. You should see it on your statements when you get it. It's a credit directly against your taxes paid. And so everyone benefits out of that. Unfortunately, the Appropriations Committee was not too friendly on that, and with all the other issues that they're being asked to fund, I'd be really surprised if they come out and with some serious dollars in improving that property tax credit program. What they're most likely to do is wait until this Friday, February 28th, the forecasting board meets. That's the board that gets together and kind of forecasts the revenues for the state over the next few years, see what they come back with, and then the Appropriations Committee will be making some decisions. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the Revenue Committee deliberations on property taxes here in the next slide, but let me just mention real quick income taxes. That continues to be a top priority for the governor and for a lot of the business groups, the chambers, Omaha, Lincoln, and state chambers. And what they would really like to do is reduce the top rate on income tax. Our current top rate is 6.84%, and it kicks in on incomes above $27,000. They would like to both reduce the rate to below 6%. And ideally, they'd like to go to 5.5%, and then index or increase the index above 27,000 or the threshold. Their last, or I guess it was 2 weeks ago, that the committee heard the testimony on those bills, and they got about as favorable reaction on that as we did on some of the property tax issues. So the Revenue Committee is being very tough this year on looking at any kind of taxes. Now on the income tax side, they did kick out a bill last Friday that would index those income brackets for inflation, and then provide a partial exemption for Social Security, and so they are looking at maybe some marginal changes there for now, but nothing big and major that a lot of people are asking for. And I guess the final thing I'll mention real quick on taxes is the one good thing right now that's occurring is there was a bill introduced by Senator DuBois, LB 96, which would repeal the sales tax on ag machinery repair parts. It's worth about $12 million in reduced taxes. It has advanced through the first 2 stages of debate, and it is on final reading right now, which is the final stage. It's sitting there until we get some more numbers in terms of revenue projections and those kind of things, and they got to wait until they do the budget before they can finalize that. But one bright spot on the tax front is at least there's one bill moving that provides a little relief for agriculture. Let me finish up taxes talking a little bit about where the Revenue Committee is right now. They're basically split right down the middle now on our ag land bills. We have 4 votes in support, and we have 4 votes that I don't know, I wouldn't call them definitely as opposition now, but they're not supporters, if that makes any sense. When a week ago, when there was some discussion about trying to move our ag land bills, 4 senators were willing to vote yes. The other 4 said we're not ready to vote yet. So we're continuing to work with those 4 senators and try to give them information and anything we can to encourage them to vote yes. There are a couple senators that I think are probably no votes no matter what. There are other couple that might be some possibilities yet. So it's still very much up in the air. I guess I liken it a little bit to the baseball game. We get 3 strikes. We got 1 strike on us. We're on an 0-1 count right now. So we're trying to work it and hopefully avoid the strikeout there. What the Revenue Committee did, instead of voting out our ag land bill, was suggest to the Appropriations Committee that they put $47 million in the property tax credit program, which would give it, in percentage terms, get it back to where it was a few years ago when it was funded at $115 million. The Appropriations Committee did not like that idea. They were pretty cool to it. In fact, Senator Mello, who chairs the Appropriations Committee, basically told the Revenue Committee to mind its own business. They'll talk about how much they want to put into the property tax credit program, and that the Revenue Committee should focus on tax issues. So we'll see what happens there. The income tax rate reduction. I know the governor and the chambers are working very, very hard on trying to get something out of committee related to income tax rates, and just like we're working on the ag land side, and everybody's tried to count their votes and make things work. The latest on that was that the committee might offer something that reduces rates by 0.1%. And so who knows what might happen there. And then again, everybody's looking at Friday in the forecasting board. Everyone expects a modest growth in revenue, which would allow some things to occur on taxes. But if that doesn't happen, if they go the other way, that could change the dynamics of the discussion in a big hurry. Let me switch real quick to water. That's one of the other big issues we're working on. One of the bigger issues is water funding. Last week, the appropriations on February 18th took testimony on 2 bills related to water funding. Both were similar in the sense that they create the Water Sustainability Fund. It's a fund that they're basically creating within the Department of Natural Resources to fund some of the programs, projects, and activities related to water management that the Water Funding Task Force recommended. One bill, LB 940, it was introduced by Senator Shills. It would transfer for one time out of the cash reserve $50 million to go towards water programs. And then another bill, LB 1046, would carry that on through starting next year into the future at $50 million a year, and it would be a general fund appropriations. The Appropriations Committee asked a lot of good questions. They seem very receptive to the idea that we need to direct some funding towards water. Exactly how much that they're willing to direct, that's an open question. And there's a lot of skepticism on the part of some of the urban senators on exactly how much is needed and why is it needed, and a lot of questions asked about agriculture's use of water, and if we provide this funding, is it just going to continue to allow agriculture to drain the aquifers and those kind of things. So a lot of education needed to be done, but we had a lot of help from some of our rural friends on the committee, like Senator John Harms, Senator John Whiteman, and I'm trying to think, John Nelson, were all very helpful in pointing out some of the realities of water use in the state of Nebraska. So the Appropriations Committee has heard those bills, and they're chewing it over right now, trying to figure out what they want to do. At the same time, tomorrow the Natural Resources Committee is going to hear testimony on LB 1098. That's the bill that Senator Carlson introduced that takes the Water Funding Task Force recommendations and it provides the structure and the oversight, if you will, on how the funding would be used. The bill, in a nutshell, kind of revamps the Natural Resources Commission, which right now has 16 members that represent the various basins across the state. They are elected in caucuses by the NRDs, according to River Basin. The bill would expand that to 27 members and provide some representation for other interests like ag business, agriculture, surface water irrigation, recreation, conservation, those kinds of things. And then it basically charges the commission with overseeing the Water Sustainability Fund and implementing and making sure those dollars are invested wisely and used. So it's kind of a package of those 3 bills. It's still very much up in the air on what will happen on that funding side. I think there's a lot of we've got a core of 5 or 6 senators that are working very hard on trying to get the right structure in place and get the right funding mechanisms in place. And on the bright side, we've never had that before, but on the other side, There's a lot. It's a big uphill battle with all the other things that are in play this session. So we're going to keep working on that. Let me also, oops, sorry, my trigger finger's a little heavy there. Let me talk a little bit about water management there. I know I've gotten a lot of phone calls from people about the bill LB 1074 that was introduced by Senator Lathrop, and last week he actually designated his priority bill. And there seems to be a lot of interest generating out from a lot of folks that I've gotten some phone calls on. The bill is a big bill. It's very thick, and it basically goes through and does a lot of rewriting of our integrated management planning process that was put in place with LB 962 passed in 2004. And basically, in a nutshell, it's trying to have DNR go back and reevaluate all the basins across the state. And when 962 was drafted and passed and implemented, it was very limited in which basins could be declared over appropriated. And in fact, it was limited to where only a portion of the Platte River Basin would be declared over appropriated. And what this bill would do was allow DNR to go in and reevaluate all the basins and make another declaration of whether they are fully or over appropriated, and allow them to declare any basin in the state over appropriated. And then it puts in place some different sets of goals that need to be met in order to meet the law in terms of the water management goals within those basins. And basically the bill would upset the current integrated management planning process we have across the state. And the bill is really aimed at the Republican Basin because of some of the issues that we're dealing with there, not only in terms of compact compliance, but some of the frustrations on the part of surface water users in the basin versus some of the management decisions that have been made there. And Farm Bureau did testify in opposition to that bill, recognizing, and our testimony is basically, while the 962 process isn't perfect, there's surely some room for improvement there. It has set us on a pretty firm footing for moving forward in terms of our management, and in a lot of the state it's working pretty well, and we shouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, and upset everything with what Senator Lathrop's bill is trying to do. My understanding is the Natural Resources Committee talked about that bill last week. There was not enough support to advance it in its current form, but there is some interest in maybe looking at the integrated management planning process in the state and seeing if there's some ways we can do some improvements. One of those ways is maybe looking at some basin-wide planning. Right now, the law only requires basin-wide planning. What I mean by basin-wide planning is if you've had an area of the state declared fully appropriated, the NRDs must work together with DNR to kind of set up an overall plan that would clearly delineate goals and objectives for that basin related to water management. And then as the NRDs individually make up those integrated management plans, they have to coincide with that basin-wide plan. And so there's some discussion about trying to amend current law to require, right now that basin-wide planning is only required in over-appropriated area of the Platte, excuse me, and so there's some discussion about trying to do that statewide as maybe some way to move forward here. Excuse me, let me finish up real quick and talk a little bit about livestock growth. We've got quite a few bills in play there, and that's one of our priority areas. One of the bills was LB 942 that was introduced by Senator Ken Shields. The hearing on that was February 18th. This bill is pretty simple. It just adjusts. Right now, state law prohibits processors from owning beef cattle or pork or swine, hogs, and so because of that, we cannot engage in any custom feeding on swine or beef in the state. Senator Shields' bill would relax that for swine only to allow some custom feeding to occur between processors and independent producers for swine like what occurs in other states. And the big reason for it is we're worried about losing our hog industry in the state. When you look at over the last 10 years, Nebraska's only grown 3% in terms of its hog numbers. Iowa and Minnesota, where they allow these kind of arrangements to occur, Iowa has grown 30%. I think Minnesota is over 20%. And so we're worried about maintaining our packing industry in the state. Senator Shields has declared it a priority. The Ag Committee talked about it Friday and split right down the middle on whether to advance the bill or not. And it's kind of similar to the Revenue Committee. We've got a couple members that said they wanted to think about the issue a little more. So we're trying to get them some more information, and we'll see what occurs there. At the same time, there was a bill introduced. Senator Shields also introduced a bill, LB 941, which requires the university and the Department of Ag and others to cooperate on a dairy study. The whole idea behind that is when we look at South Dakota and Iowa and Minnesota, they're taking some great strides in growing their dairy industry in the state. We're just basically status quo and not growing. And Senator Shields wants to figure out what we need to do within the state of Nebraska to try to grow our dairy industry. So that bill was heard on the same day. It did advance out of committee, and it's been prioritized by the Ag Committee. The other part of that we're still working on, we're trying with LB 550 is we're trying to grow the Livestock Friendly County program in the state and maybe provide some grant dollars in there for counties to look at developing some marketing strategies and a way to attract livestock to their county. If we can get the language right in LB 550, there's some discussion about maybe trying to amend it into 941 since 941 is prioritized. So these are some issues on the livestock growth side that we're continuing to work on as well. And the last thing I'll mention is MAP 21. I won't go through the whole sordid history on what we've been through on that, but I will say that 2 years ago the Congress passed a law, and Jordan could probably fill us a little on more details there if we need to, but it provided for an exemption for all farm-covered vehicles from the CDL requirements, but every state had to implement that on their own because every state has a little different rules and regs when it comes to that. So we had some legislation introduced last year to exempt farm-covered vehicles from the CDL, and it advanced out of committee, but after much work, and it was too late to try to get it advanced in the full body. We'll come back this year, and there were some other changes that needed to be made to law to get us in sync with the federal law. And so LB 983 was introduced and considered some of those other changes, and we were able to amend the farm CDL exemption into that. But one of the things we had to work through is Senator DuBois was talking about trying to put a sunset on that CDL exemption provision, which the federal law doesn't require that, and so we had to work through that. We were able to get it attached to the bill with no sunset. Well, then the carrier enforcement came up and said, well, hang on, we see a change in federal law we think that's occurred that we would require anybody driving a pickup with pulling a nurse tank to have a CDL when it's a placarded amount of for hazardous waste. And we worked with AFBF and a lot of other states to determine that that wasn't the case, that they were misinterpreting the federal regs. And just today we learned that we think Senator DuBois agrees with us and that that is not required, so LB 983 can move on without any further amendments. So we'll see. One of the critical reasons why we were working on this so hard is there are some new requirements at the federal level on the CDL in terms of testing, and now you have to require to get a temporary license and some other things, and it would make it more burdensome and more cumbersome on people driving farm-plated vehicles or farm-covered vehicles. And so we wanted to make sure we got this exemption in place because we were worried about the burden that might occur with those new requirements. So hopefully that Bill 983 has advanced through the first stage of debate. It's on select file, and hopefully it'll be smooth sailing from here on out. But this has been kind of every day something new develops on this, so stay tuned, but we'll see. And I think that was the last thing I had, Jay, and I would be glad to, I guess, do we want to take questions now, or should we do national things first?
I think we can sure take some questions right now if anyone has questions for Jay on state issues. Once again, there's two ways to do that. One is you can type a question into the question box, or if you have a microphone on your computer, you can raise your hand. I will unmute your microphone, and you can ask your question live. I am not seeing any questions come in currently. Oh, we do have a question from Ted. I'm going to... Well, he raised his hand, but I'm not able to see to unmute him. Uh-oh. We lost him. So, Ted, if you are still there. Yeah, not having any luck with that. Ted, if you want to type in your question, or if you could... I'm not seeing any questions at this point, so why don't we go ahead and turn it over to Jordan, and we will... And Jordan, are you on the phone line as well, too?
I am. I just jumped on as well, so hopefully the folks that... there we go. I put it on speaker, so maybe that'll help a little bit so the folks can listen in. If you want to give me the screen, Jay, I will jump over.
I do now have a question for Jay Rempe, so if he's still back on, we'll go back to that. And this comes from Ted, and the question is, what is the likelihood of 1074 passing?
Good question, Ted. At this point, it's tough to tell. My assessment right now would be anything that might come out of the Natural Resources Committee on 1074 would be dramatically changed from what was introduced. And so if there's anything that would pass, it'd be something that was modified and some kind of a compromise that was worked out between Senators Carlson and Senator Shields has been heavily involved, and Senator Lathrop. And so at this point, it's early. I don't see it passing in its current form, and we'll have to see. My understanding today is Senator Lathrop has tied this issue a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit. He has tied it to funding, and he has made, unless he can be satisfied with something occurring in integrated management to improve our integrated management planning process, he's going to not be too interested in helping support funding, and so that's the leverage he's trying to use to try to work out some kind of a compromise. But in its current form, I guess I can't see it coming out of committee. I think the committee has quite a few concerns with the bill, and shares the view that for the most part our integrated management planning process is working fairly well. There are some warts that we probably should try to work on, but we don't need to throw everything out.
Okay, thank you, Jay. At this point, I don't see any other questions, so I think I have given the screen over to Jordan. So Jordan, if you want to go ahead and start your presentation, we will come back, and if there's other questions, we'll go back, and Jay will stick around here. So if there's other questions for him later, we'll go back and ask questions at the end of Jordan's presentation too. So.
Unmute myself. There we go. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to, Jay talked about, kind of went through a number of issues, and for me tonight, unless there are questions about some specific things here and there, I'm going to stick to maybe a little bit more of an in-depth Farm Bill presentation, so feel free to ask me any questions about any federal issue that you have a question on, but I wanted to focus in maybe a little bit more on a little bit more Farm Bill implementation stuff now that we do have a Farm Bill. The presentation I'm gonna use, just as a quick caveat to this, is something that was done by the American Farm Bureau staff. This is a presentation that we will have up on our website soon. I will tell you that some of the calculations are complicated. I will tell you that all of these new programs are complicated. And so I'm going to run through it fairly quickly to not keep everyone on the phone too late tonight. But feel free to ask me any questions moving forward that we can, and I'll try to answer those questions that I can as well. So if I can get the presentation to move forward here. There we go. This is one thing that AFBF was sure to put in this particular piece of presentation, this new presentation. So these programs and how they operate are based upon the interpretation, the American Farm Bureau interpretation of this bill. Now, that does not mean that these things are wrong. It means that we've had the consultation with other folks, and this is the way we have viewed the way these programs as they are written today. USDA will write some implementing rules and regulations yet, but those things will take place here in the next number of months, and we'll kind of keep these updated as well. USDA may interpret these a little differently, but I'll tell you that as far as what we know today, this is the way these programs look. The timing aspect of here is important to note because we actually don't know when USDA will have final sign-up rules and regs out. We don't know the timeline at which you will all need to sign up for programs because of the fact that these program payments for these new programs, the payments for these new programs will not be taking place until the October of next year. So you will have the option between a couple programs. Unlike direct payments, however, though, you will not be receiving a payment this year. You will not be receiving any program payments until October of the following year. So please keep that in mind as you work on your cash flow. That's an important aspect of this new Farm Bill. Excuse me. The important thing, the Farm Bill, what's actually in it? And as we've talked a couple times before, this program or this bill has a number of options for people. And those options include a new updated target price program. The price law, it's called PLC, price loss coverage. It's similar to the old countercyclical payment program with updated reference prices. There's a county level revenue program known as ARC-C. It's similar to county level or ACRE, excuse me, but just some minor changes here and there. A new individual ARC program, ARC-I. While it sounds the same, it's not, and you'll probably be able to see that here moving forward as I hit on that one. And I will warn you on that one, if I am not able to answer every question, please don't hold it against me because that program is really complicated. The running joke that I have used is that, when you all presented a resolution, and it came from almost every state, that we want a farm bill that's simple to understand. So we heard that, and we came up with, we got rid of the ACRE program, the complicated ACRE program, and what did we do? We replaced it with something that was just as complicated and in some ways more complicated. There is a new program called the Supplemental Coverage option. This is something, it's an area-triggered insurance program. It's a crop insurance program that's designed to cover part of your crop insurance deductible. And there are some specific things you cannot, that program is only tied in with the price loss coverage program. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm going to skip over the cotton program and then just very quickly mention for dairy producers there's a lot of change in the dairy provision as well, and I'm not going to talk about that tonight, but if there are questions on that, I can certainly try to answer those later. Other details, just really quick, there is a one-time option to reallocate your covered crop base acres. There's a one-time option to update yields, and I'll hit on both of those in a little bit. And then all these programs, just like Acre was last time, there is a one-time sign-up for the programs. So you have the one-time option to either sign up for price loss coverage, the new revenue county level program, or the individual level county program. So please, again, this is a one-time irrevocable decision. You have to make those decisions. And again, those the programs themselves, the price loss coverage, the new revenue program, they'll be available in 2014. Supplemental coverage, however, which is tied in with the price loss program, it's important to note that that won't be available until 2015. So you may decide that you want to look at that supplemental coverage option program, but that the revenue program may be more attractive, or the price loss program. Trying to make those decisions, it's harder because supplemental coverage won't be available for this crop year, not until next year. So it's a little bit difficult to probably calculate into what we're looking at there. Just budget very, very quickly. Estimated cost. This is the rough cost of it. $956 billion over 10 years. The nutrition program themselves, the nutrition title, which covers food stamps, school lunch program, et cetera, that had a 10-year cost of $756 billion. So nearly 80% of that. You can see kind of the breakdown in the cost of things here and there on this particular slide. Here's what the rundown is. This is the pie chart. This is what spending is. And again, as we talk about Farm Bill, it's still important for us to note we're not trying to pick a fight with anybody, but we just try to note that when we see the price tag of $956 billion over 10 years, 80% of that still goes to nutrition, $756 billion. This is the first time the crop insurance title has had a higher cost than the commodity title. That's an important note. Conservation is at $56 billion, which is a trim, and I can bring up those numbers too if folks are interested in that. But all of these titles, nutrition, food stamps received about an $8 billion cut. Crop insurance grew by about $5 billion. Roughly. Conservation was cut, commodity programs were cut, and then there were some cuts in the everything else category, which includes energy and research, promotion programs, et cetera. So some growth, some cuts. It's kind of a mixture here and there. Some decisions you'll need to make. The base reallocation, as I mentioned. The payment yield update, if you want to update your yields, that's a landowner decision, not a producer decision. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but the base reallocation would also be a landowner decision, not necessarily a producer decision. I need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. The program election itself, that is up to the producer, obviously, and again, it's a one-time irrevocable decision. And then the supplemental coverage, that only qualifies. You're only allowed the supplemental coverage option if you sign up for price loss coverage. So that's an important note there. One more time. The base reallocation, again, it's a matter of just mixing things up a little bit. You can't have more base acres than what you had before. It's just a reallocation and update of that. And then the important note there is that payments would be based on for PLC and the ARC program, the price loss program and the ARC program, they're based on 85% of your base acres. So that's an important thing to keep in the back of your mind. This is just a quick example. They did throw cotton here in this example, but again, it's just a reallocation of base. It's not trying to you can't end up with more base, but it's just a matter of trying to update that. So again, you look through the planting years of 2009 to 2012, 100 to 200 acres, 100 acres of corn, 200 acres of soybeans, 500 acres of cotton in the base that you've actually planted. And then you can see as you go into the new base, you've got just some adjustments here and there is what you can make. So that's kind of your average base of 300 acres on the corn side, 300 acres on the soybean side. You can make that one up again, that one-time update of those base acres if you so choose. The yield update, again, it's a landowner decision, one-time opportunity to update your yield information. The covered commodity, it's a covered commodity by commodity basis, so that's an important thing to note there as well. That's that one just very, very quickly on the payment update. Again, you have a one-time choice, the area or county level revenue loss program, your individual revenue loss program, the new price loss program tied with SCO, and then again those times there, 2014 you'll make those decisions moving forward. The producer decisions, again, this kind of just basically says the same thing. So we'll focus in specifically on the price loss program. So price loss, again, it provides updated reference prices. So it's a target price program with new reference prices. Wheat at $5.50 now, corn at $3.70, grain sorghum at $3.95, soybeans at $8.40. This was more directed towards southern producers, I will say. But when you look at USDA's price projections, producers probably should take a look at this program, specifically with SCO tied to it. And I'll hit on SCO in a second, supplemental coverage. But this producers should not completely throw this one away because of that update of target prices and where USDA maybe is forecasting what corn prices may look like here around harvest time. So the PLC payment, how does that work? You have your reference price minus the effective price, which is then your effective price is basically the reference prices are these again. So your reference price minus the year price that you have. So they do a running average for the year is how they calculate the effective price. And I would note that what they'll do is they'll take whatever price is higher. That's an important thing to note. So you subtract those two, you times that by your yield, and you times that by the payment acres. Again, you get your acres, and then it's 85% of your base is the way these things work. And so they kind of use the peanut example. A farm has 200 acres of peanut base with a payment yield of about 3,000 pounds. Your price, the price is $5.50 a ton. You kind of go through the calculation. Your guaranteed is $5.35. Your 500 is where the price was. You've got your acres times your 85%. Again, you get paid on 85%, and you have 200 acres. That's where you get your total payment. Again, it's pretty simple once you get it calculated out there. But that's pretty much the new target price program. The new county level revenue program. Area-based revenue, again, it's county level, and your guarantee is based upon a 5-year Olympic average of your county yield and the national price. So your Olympic, your 5-year Olympic average is you take out the high and the low of your revenue, and then you make your calculation of your payment based again on 85% of your base acres. But a payment would be triggered with a loss of anywhere from 14 to 24% of revenue. So if your revenue on a 5-year Olympic average is 14 to 24% lower, then that's when the county level payment will be triggered. Again, the idea of this program, and this is kind of a visualization of that, of what it's supposed to look like. That ARC program, again, is what we call a shallow loss program. You know, you would be responsible for your losses of anywhere from 1% to 13%. You have a revenue loss of that, then you're on your own. This would sit right on top of your crop insurance program. That's the idea of this one. So you can buy your crop insurance, you know, up to up to 85% coverage. This basically would sit right on top of that. So they kind of look at again, just a visualization of what that kind of looks like. Again, your loss would have to be anywhere from 14 to 24%, and that's what actually that's when your payment's triggered. And again, this is on your base. It's important to note there was a discussion at one time that this would be on planted acres versus base, but it actually will be put on base acres, and again, 85% of your base. Again, how you calculate out your revenue, it's the county guarantee. So again, your average, your 5-year Olympic average, minus the actual revenue for that year. So you get that number, you multiply that by your payment of acres, so by the acres that you actually had. I'm trying to think here, moving forward. Again, your benchmark revenue, it's that 5-year Olympic average, and then you've got your, again, this is a county level program, so that's an important thing to note on that one. So again, it's a revenue program similar to acre. It's just a matter of coming up with that number, and again, it's on the county level. Here's your quick example, and again, it kind of runs it through very quickly. But this is a farm with 200 acres of soybean base. Your yield and what you had for a yield for those 5 years. Again, as an Olympic average, you'd take out the 18 bushel an acre in 2011. You take out the top of 39 in 2009, and you come up with an average of 33. You have again the price, what that price was. You'll take out, since it's Olympic, you'll take out the high and the low, the 1440 and the 959. You strike those out. You come up with an average price of 1126. When you multiply those out, you get a benchmark. What the benchmark is, that's where your number will be and so you try to then you do what your revenue was on that particular year. You subtract things out versus what the benchmark was, with the guarantee of 319. And you kind of subtract out what 2014 was, your payment rate of $19.79 an acre. You've got 85% of your 200 base acres, which is 170. You multiply that out, and that's where you get your payment of $3,363.77. I will tell you, and it's important to note here, that the complicated nature of these programs lend themselves to producers really being sure that they know what they're signing up for. And because of the fact that this is a one-time decision, folks are going to have to really work on trying to see what program is best for you, because as my assumption is, and I'm sure you all have experienced this, I'm assuming your banks will want to know what program you're signing up for. And I know that there are a number of universities that are working on a payment calculator. You can punch in your information and work through some of these things to kind of see what your rough payment would be moving forward. You know, it's kind of a race to see who can get it done first. I will tell you that as soon as a decent calculator comes out, we will definitely be trying to send that out to people as soon as we can. But again, the complicated nature of these programs really kind of goes on and shows that folks are going to really need to bunker down and get their numbers together so they can see what these programs may mean for them. I'm going to apologize if I'm not making sense on the individual one. The revenue program on the individual side is somewhat similar, but it has some differences, and it's fairly complicated. I would say important things to note on this one is that instead of the 85% of your base acres that the county level program was, this one is paid on 65% of your base. Again, the reason being is that because this is an individual revenue program, the chances of getting a payment, the chances of you having a decrease in revenue are far more likely. And so the way the government protects itself is reducing the amount of base acres in which they will cover. And so it's again, multi-crop, multi-farm coverage. The benchmark revenue is based on all commodities covered on a farmer. So on your county level program, that is on a per commodity basis. So you can sign up for the target price program for your soybeans, and you could sign up for the revenue program on your corn, if you so chose to, on the county level. If you choose this revenue program on the individual level, this is a whole farm policy or a whole farm program. It's based on all commodities, your total revenue for that farm. And that's what makes it complicated, is that you may have multiple county. They're trying to come up with what that means, whole farm, because of the county differences and how FSA is going to get that information, and the complicated nature of this program will be interesting to see how USDA rules come out. But again, your individual benchmark, again, it's the revenue, it's the 5-year Olympic average, still the same. If you look at what they do for price, they'll pick whatever's greater, whether it be the target price that was set or the actual market price that you received. They'll take whatever is higher to calculate your revenue. So that's across all covered crops and farms, weighted by that current year planting. Again, the loss band is still about the same. It still is the same, 14 to 24%, and again, it's paid on 65% of your base. Again, it just kind of looks the same. This is again that visual representation. It's a shallow loss side, sits on top of your crop insurance. And it's paid on your base. This is the example, and I'm not going to walk through this one with you because of the complicated nature of it, but I will tell you that this slide and this presentation will be up on our website here shortly, so folks can really kind of see that and see what they'd like to do to see. The intriguing nature of this program is, again, that it's on the individual side. And so the chances of a payment do exist because it's your own individual revenue. If you live in a section of the county that tends to get less rain than maybe the other parts of your county, this could be that option for you, because the county level revenue program, if the county revenue is up and yours is down, you're kind of out of luck there. But on the individual side, this may be an option for you. Supplemental coverage. Again, it provides up to 86% of revenue coverage. It's a revenue product. It's a revenue crop insurance product. Allows you to buy up to 86% coverage. It's tied in with the target price program, and so you would purchase this product. It's not a free product like the other ones are. This one you have to buy because it's a crop insurance product. But it does provide a little higher subsidized rate at 65%, a little higher than what the average is here and there. But this is basically just a revenue crop insurance product that lets you bump up to 86%, and it's only available through the price loss program, the target price program. And it's important to note that SCO, you cannot receive an indemnity in excess of what your actual policy deductible is, what your crop insurance policy deductible was. Again, it kind of sits on top with its higher coverage level of up to 86%. Again, kind of a run through as to what that looks like. Again, these slides will be up there. I wanted to spend just really quick on some of these things, and I'm running a little long here already. The livestock disaster programs were reauthorized. That's an important thing to note, and we have some information about that was sent out via a Policy Watch article, and those will be up on our website here shortly. The permanent enterprise unit subsidy was made permanent. You can now confirm either separate irrigated or non-irrigated enterprise units and coverage levels. That's an important change for this year. And there are new payment limits: $125,000 for per person, at $200,000. It'd be 200 times 2, $250,000 for a couple, and an AGI limit of $900,000 in order for you to receive program payments. If you make more, if you've had an AGI of higher than that, you do not qualify for farm program payment limits. I would also note that SPCC, as I noted on a couple other presentations, but the Spill Prevention Control Countermeasure Regulation was not included in this Farm Bill. The fix to that we have been trying to get was not included, unfortunately. We still think there's another avenue, but we're not sure as to what the future of that, fixing that looks like yet. And then a couple other environmental regulatory things that we have been trying to push were also not included in this particular Farm Bill as well. That was a lot. It was really quick. I probably didn't explain it as well as I needed to, but again, this presentation will be available, and I can certainly answer any questions that folks have moving forward here. So please go ahead and let me know what questions you may have, and I'll try my best to answer them.
Yes, thank you, Jordan. Do we have any questions for Jordan? And once again, if you do have a question, you can simply type it into the question box. You can also raise your hand if you have a microphone on your computer that we can hear you ask your question. Also, I'm unmuting everyone on the phone line, so if anyone on the phone has a question for either Jay or Jordan. And we do have a question for Jay Rempe. So Jay is here. This one came from Mark Haskins.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. The question goes back onto the state issue, and it is, what are the odds that MAP 21 passes this year?
Good question, Mark. I think the odds are fairly good. As I said earlier, the bill is on select file. And so we've gotten through one stage of debate. It got through largely unscathed, no problems. And I think we've got the one issue resolved now with the pickups and the nurse tanks. So I think it looks fairly good. But this has been one of those issues where every day or every other day something new blows up or something comes in. So it looks fairly promising right now, but we never want to get ahead of ourselves and got to make sure it gets across the finish line. So, but hopefully we'll see something done.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Are there any other questions? Simply just need to type your question in the question box.
The one thing real quick, Jay, that I wanted to note, I had talked about putting things up on the website. I didn't note where they were actually at. We have a new section of our website that's solely dedicated to the Farm Bill. It's under the legislation and issues section. If you just click on that, go to the Farm Bill tab, it has a pretty good explanation of these programs and kind of a rundown as to what they look like. So if folks have a question about any of those things, just go on to our website, Legislative Issues tab, Farm Bill, and it has a pretty good rundown. And we're also going to launch here shortly a new section of the website in that area where you can just type in a question, and we'll maybe have a running list of kind of a Q&A of Farm Bill questions that people have, and so we can kind of answer and show the answer to some of those questions moving forward as well.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. I was thinking maybe I'd get over to my screen and show people how to get onto that part of the web page. And I may do that here in just a minute. While I'm doing that, we do have a couple of questions that have come in. And this one is for Jordan. In the Farm Bill, is it true that all program approvals are delayed until the new rules are written, or just the programs you reviewed here?
So read that one again for me, Jay.
Yes. Is it true that all program approvals are delayed until the new rules are written, or is it just the programs that you reviewed here this evening?
So the way it'll work is that farm program payments, again, the programs themselves aren't delayed. That's just the payment won't be the payments themselves won't be made until October of all those payments of all those programs. Now, the livestock disaster programs, sign up for those will begin on April 15th. So that's when those will start. Again, April 15th are livestock disaster programs, but the other programs won't, because the payments are delayed, because they're based upon your actual revenue. It's not something that they pay out early, and so that's the way those programs will work. And the most important part that I did not mention, that I hopefully by now folks realize, but the direct payment program is no longer out there. It is gone. It is dead, and so it'll be an interesting 2014, I think, as we look at maybe doing an analysis of what this looks like for 2014, because for the first time in a very long time, folks may get crop insurance indemnities. Those payments will probably be made if those payments are needed. However, besides some livestock disaster programs, that's it. And so that's why I made the note on cash flow issues. It's important for folks to remember that on all of those, the revenue program, price loss program, those payments aren't made until next year, late next year.
Okay, Jordan, another question for you, and this is from Mark Haskins. Any idea about conservation funding now that the Farm Bill has passed? He's waiting for EQIP funding.
EQIP was trimmed. EQIP was trimmed on the 10-year side by about $500 million which the program itself is a good-sized program, but that's still a cut. It's still a cut. It was between the $1 billion that the Senate wanted to cut and the zero that the House wanted to cut, so they kind of found a happy medium right in between at $500 million. In terms of when those payments will be made available, that's a good question. And quite frankly, I'd say this is my inability to answer that question versus the other ones maybe shows that so much emphasis has been put on the farm side of things rather than on the conservation side. The conservation programs were hardly even talked about. I mean, really hardly even talked about throughout this process. They made some simple trims, and really it wasn't very controversial, and it kind of just happened. And so the fact that there really hasn't been much chatter about conservation is probably just indicative of the fact that there wasn't much. So I think we're still waiting for USDA and the natural resources folks to really write those rules. So keep on our website. As soon as we have that information, we're going to certainly send it out. But EQIP received a cut in funding. CRP received a cut in funding. They reduced acres down to 24 million acres from 32. And then CSP received some acreage reduction, so that's a funding reduction, but the number wasn't that terribly significant. And again, that information will also be up on the website here as soon as we can get it up there. So in the not too this week is what I'm promising, folks. So keep looking on that part. Jay kind of sees it under the policy and issues section. You can kind of see on your screen there's that 2014 Farm Bill breakdown. You click on that, and it's a pretty handy. Hopefully you find it to be a user-friendly section. I'm going to get the conservation side done here shortly as well.
Yes, and as Jordan mentioned, I have our website up, and this is in the members-only portion of our website. We're trying to add value to your membership. So if you have not logged into the members-only portion of the website and you need to, give us a call. We can help you get logged in there too. We just need your membership number and get you going, because there's a lot of useful information on this website that we want our members to be able to access and find out more information there. I have a question now here for Jay Rempe, and this one was coming from Richard Shrunk, and it is, what is happening with LB 942?
Excuse me. LB 942 was heard in the Agriculture Committee last Tuesday. It was a long hearing. There were a lot of both opponents and our supporters and opponents to it, but it is still in committee. They haven't taken any action on the bill yet. The committee seems to be pretty even or roughly split on the issue right now. There are a couple senators that are looking at wanting some more information about the issue. And again, that's the bill that right now Nebraska state law prohibits the packer or processor ownership of beef or hogs, and this would remove that to prohibition for the hog side of things and allow it's mainly aimed at allowing the custom feeding arrangements to occur between processors and independent farmers as a way to try to grow the hog industry and attract young farmers back to the farm. And so Farm Bureau supports the measure, but it's still in committee right now, Richard, and the committee is kind of studying it further. They are talking a little bit about maybe some potential amendments to the bill to try to improve it a little bit, but it's still kind of up in the air right now.
Okay, are there any other questions? I'm not seeing any other questions at this point. Once again, would like to thank everyone for being on this webinar this evening. Also, just to let you know, we did record the webinar, so we will place that on our website tomorrow as well. So if there was any part that you need to go over again, or if you would like to tell someone that you think may find some beneficial use to watching this webinar, you can certainly direct them to our website and let them know about it as well too. We still, looking if there are any more questions, we can certainly take time to answer that. But I'm not seeing any. So with that, I'm going to once again thank everyone for being on the webinar this evening. Also to let you know, we do have our next webinar scheduled for March 10th. It will again be at 7:30 in the evening. That is a Monday evening. And then following that one, we're going to try to do one on a Wednesday afternoon on March 26th. We want to keep these webinars going about every 2 weeks just to keep you updated. But anytime in the meantime between that, if you have any questions for any of us here at the Nebraska Farm Bureau, please don't hesitate to give us a call, because we're here to work for you and to serve you and keep you informed and represent you in the capitals. Jay or Jordan, do you have anything?
Nope. Just thank everybody for participating tonight. And as Jay said, if you have any questions or anything at all regarding any of these issues, please let us know.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, so much. And have a good rest of your evening.
Still on?
Yeah. Jordan, you still there?
I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Good job tonight.
I was going through the presentation again. I was getting myself lost. That was probably obvious. So I like how I worked. I used this one versus the one that I had worked up for